It was in the year 1764 that the beast first appeared on our land and made it its own. 1 year later, its infamy had spread beyond the borders of our province, and we came to believe that no mortal would be able to eliminate the terror. Under its attack, the province of Gevaudan sank deeper and deeper into darkness.
Hello and welcome. Welcome and hello. This is Wait, You Haven't Seen? It's a show where we talk about movies, and specifically, we talk about a movie at least one of us has never seen before. I'm your host, Travis, aka TV's Travis. This is episode number 287, and our movie this week is 2001's Brotherhood of the Wolf. And here to talk with me about it from The Picture Show with Austin and Phil Rood, it's Austin and Phil Rood. How you boys doing?
Doing good, Travis.
Excellent, excellent. All right, so Phil, you had seen this movie before, right?
No, this was brand new to me, man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you were seeing it for the
both
first
of us. We were breaking in here. Yeah.
Okay, and Austin, I knew was seeing it for the first time because we had talked about that. For some reason, I had the impression you had seen it, so that's interesting to me. And I'm loving this. I can't wait to get your thoughts on it. I will give my history real quick with it. So this movie came out in 2001. I remember it being in theaters. I did not see it. It had a limited theatrical run, but it actually came to my town. At the time, the theater was still in our local shopping mall, so it was the multiplex there. And I just remembered seeing the name, and it was there and gone. I think I probably saw some sort of like, hey, there's this new movie coming out. It's been popular in the film festivals and whatnot. And then I saw the name, and by the next week it was gone. And I was bummed out by that. But then I picked it up on not Blu-ray, just DVD, and I absolutely adored it. I thought it was really, really cool, and I had to tell people all about it. And it was this weird mix of, like, I knew Mark Dacascos already, but it introduced me to a couple new people, and I just thought this director is going to go places and all that kind of stuff. So, and then it was one of those that I just told people about over time, like, yeah, Brotherhood of the Wolf, fun movie, really cool, monster movie with historical stuff in it and all that. So it's been one that I have wanted to talk about for quite a while. So I want to start, Phil, with you. And if this was your first time watching it, what did you think just overall as a movie when you got done with it?
My short answer is I did enjoy this movie, with some caveats. Mm-hmm. But I just my biggest takeaway was, and you know me, Travis, I watch all kinds of movies. I like weird movies. I like, Austin and I watched Mandy for this show, and I love Mandy. I love 2001. I like weird stuff. This was unlike any movie I have ever seen in my entire life. I have never seen anything like this. And that is in all the ways that it is a drawback for me, and in all the ways that I found this movie to be really successful in what it was doing, and that I really liked. So it was a big plus for me to just have such a unique experience watching a movie. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If you can watch something and go, I've never seen anything like this before, whether you like it or not, I think you're having a good movie experience with that. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think this was one of the more interesting things I've seen. So thumbs up, cautious thumbs up from me, but yeah, that's, and also I do want to add a very brief history that I do have with this movie. Is that
I was curious about that.
I do have Jamie Hammond Chamberlain's Artist Roundtable every year.
Yeah.
And for most of those years on that Skype call or Zoom call, whatever we're using, Hammond is sitting with a giant poster of Brotherhood of the Wolf right behind him on his studio. He has a very eclectic, beautiful office, and Brotherhood of the Wolf, the movie poster, is featured prominently in that.
It's because he has good taste. I'll just say that.
He has eclectic taste for sure. And he has some great taste in some eclectic things for sure.
Austin, you were about to say something?
Yeah, I've never heard of this movie before seeing it, of course, but is it like kind of like a cult classic in itself?
Yeah, it's got a little bit of that to it. Like I said, it had a limited theatrical run in 2001. It was a $29 million budget for making this movie, and it made about 70 million worldwide. So it was a success. It's one of the highest grossing French language films, I think, still, but I know it definitely was at that time, like in top 10 for French films at the time. And it did really well in its limited run in the States. But it did garner that kind of cult following. Like people that saw it really liked it. I did. It's streaming on. I watched it on Prime, Amazon Prime. But
So do we. Yep.
It was also streaming on Shudder. And just for fun, everyone, I like to go see like what people say about a movie, especially one that's 20 plus years old. I love to go look at like what are the ratings on that. And on Shudder, it was mostly 3 to 5. So it was like almost all positive ones. A lot of people, oh, this is the greatest movie ever. Oh, I love this. A couple like, it was all right. One person in particular, because I saw this 1 star or 1 skull, whatever they use on Shudder. And then I saw the same name with 4 different posts of 1 star within a month of each other. And all of them just kept saying the movie's not in English. Because in the Shudder version is the French language track with subtitles. And I was like, yeah, really?
I love to think that this guy checked back once a month to see if they had put the English language version up there.
Right? He just checked once a month for like 3 months. All right, fine, I give up. But it was
nope, gonna leave another 1 skull review. It's still in French.
They'll listen to me one day.
Yeah. It was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. But now, Austin, you hadn't heard of this prior to that. And I kind of get it because while it does have a cult following, it's not like this huge deal. But it was cool to see it streaming on Shudder and Prime. Because for a long time, it was one that couldn't find for a bit. But they did release there's a Blu-ray. I think Shout put out a Blu-ray.
Shout Factory does a lot of Blu-ray kind of smaller releases. Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. But Phil, had you heard of this movie? And just, I mean, other than Hammond's poster, like, did that resonate at all with you, or was it kind of one?
It was a movie that I had heard of but didn't really know anything about.
Okay,
I put it kind of in that camp of it was probably right around this time that there was a French version of the Three Musketeers that was kind of a parkour-y action movie that came out. I feel like they were trying to start a wave of sort of French action movies being exported to the States in the way that Hong Kong had been in the 90s. That sort of like the early 2000s, there was like kind of this attempt, and I feel like they never really caught a foothold in the same way. But I would hear of these movies. I'm not really familiar with any of them.
Sure.
And I don't know if any of them got like theatrical releases down where I'm at. I don't really remember it, but also like for reference, when this movie came out, Austin was 1 year old. So I was at home a lot with small children. Like there's still this window of early 2000s media, TV, movies. I'm just absolutely was checked out and still have not caught up with a lot of it. So
that's fair.
It takes you out of the loop a little bit.
Yeah.
I was actually begging to see this movie, but my dad refused to take me to the
theater. At 9 months old, you were begging to go see this. It's one of those where, and I want to talk about the director later on because I think he's it's a weird tale kind of his history with film. But first, the movie itself. Did it come to fruition at any point that you realize that it is based on real stories of a Beast of Gevaudan in France? There was actually historically there was the Beast of Gevaudan that was a wolf-like creature is what they talked about that was killing a bunch of people. So like all of the characters, with the exception, I think, of Manny and maybe Gregoire, but he might have been a real character too. But all of the the characters in this are based on real people, and this was a real thing that happened during this time. And the story beats of like Beast is killing people. They send people to hunt for it. They think that the king sends somebody to kill it, but then the killings keep going on afterwards.
Right.
That's all real. That's all like historical. That went on, but they built more story around that, obviously.
So sort of like local folktale
Yeah.
is like the basis of
Mhm.
this kind of like The Witch is the thing that comes to mind. The Robert Eggers
Yeah, exactly.
movie, which is sort of like based in some accounts of New England witch, sort of that Salem time, but not hard facts. But then like the
Yeah.
historical events surrounding that makes a lot more sense, because there's a lot of stuff in here that I was just like, why is this in here?
Mhm.
But then when you go, oh, well, it's based on a true story. Austin, I think you mentioned that like it seemed like it was based on a book. Like a lot of times novel adaptations just are a little bit bloated and you're like, why is this in here? And it's like, well, because it was in the book. So
Yeah.
it actually makes a lot more sense to me why this movie was structured the way it was. When you kind of get a light shown on it in that kind of way.
Yeah. Because one thing about this movie, and I always forget it every time I go, because I've watched this a few times over the years, and every time I forget how long this movie is. Like it's 2.5
Yeah.
hours, and it is a solid 2.5 hour long movie.
It's a very 2.5 hour.
Yes.
It's a. I think my biggest strike against the movie is that it's about a half hour to 40 minutes too long. I think there's a lot of fat on this movie that
Hmm.
kind of makes it a chore to watch, even though there's a lot of interesting things going on. I just found myself checked out at a couple points along the way.
Yeah.
It didn't
I'm with
feel
you on
an
that.
hour, or it didn't feel like a minute over 4 hours. It was just into that 4 hour mark is what it felt like.
It because there's a lot they try to cover. There's a lot of exposition. So I mean, this whole like first hour of the movie is a ton of exposition and a couple of fights, and
Yeah.
it's
The
interesting,
fight
right?
scheme come out of nowhere too. It's like so
They
um
do. So his previous movie to this, the director was Christoph Gans, and his previous movie was a anime adaptation called Crying Freeman, also starring Mark Dacascos, and so there's some of that kind of Hong Kong action style that he did for Crying Freeman that he was bringing into this movie as well. But then he wants to also
okay.
have the historical drama of, he said, because we get that framing device, right, where it's set at the backdrop of the French Revolution, and the Marquis is
Right.
like frantically trying to write down his story before the revolution gets him, and so he's like, all right, I'm the last one that knows about this. I got to write this down. I'm working late, type of thing. And then we get the flashbacks
Right.
to him, as a young man when he meets our main character, Gregoire de Fronsac. And so he is our main character is a naturalist who was in the
Right.
French army and had spent time in the Americas where he met Manny. Manny is an Iroquois. And they ended up coming back here, but they've traveled around and done a whole bunch of stuff. But he works in the king's gardens, and he's a naturalist, and they sent him to try and figure out what this beast is, because this beast is causing all sorts of trouble, and it's terrorizing people. And they're sort of trying to play a parallel with like the beast and the terror that it was spreading, and then kind of molding that into sort of the revolution and kind of what's going on with that. And that has become, the revolution has become the beast of present time type of thing. It's sort of what they're playing with a little bit.
It's I saw that it was there, but it seemed very thinly connected. I maybe, and I sometimes, admittedly, with foreign films, I have a little trouble connecting the dots sometimes,
It can be tough
especially
sometimes. Yeah.
when there's
Um,
a lot going on. But it was because initially I was like, well, why is there the wraparounds of the French Revolution? Didn't make a lot of sense, but it's like metaphorically, it's there. It's
mhm.
just I feel like they didn't check back in with the narration. Voiceover sort of falls away like halfway through, and
Yeah.
it's almost like an after. It feels like an afterthought a little bit more uh, than reminding you constantly, like, oh, this is a precursor to the people rising up.
Yeah. I would agree with you on that quite a bit. Um, it's weird too, because Austin, you say how it didn't feel like a minute over 4 hours, and it does have that issue of like some slow pacing, but at the same time, there's like a lot of real good action going on too, and it's weird. It's a strange mix in this movie because I'm with you, Phil. I think you could cut some of this and make a tighter movie, and make
Yeah,
it better. Like it sits with a rating on IMDb of around 7 out of 10. Um, I rank it maybe. I personally rate it a little bit higher than that, but I've got some nostalgia for it from having seen it
sure.
20 years ago. But I can get that. Because it does. There is a lot of characters and a lot of characters we meet that ultimately don't matter, but we're introduced to them when we spend time with them, and
Right.
it's all that's fat that could have been trimmed. Because were you able to like? I mean, who were the characters you could really pay attention to? It was Gregoire, Manny, um,
Manny,
Jean,
the love interest, I forget her name,
Marianne.
and Jean-Francois,
Yep.
or as I refer to him, JF Dubois, through the entire thing. um, but yeah, there are so many more characters. It reminded me a lot, in a lot of ways, of the Tim Burton Sleepy Hollow movie,
Yeah.
because it is like an outsider going into a country town, and you meet all the town elders
Mm-hmm.
and all of these people, and ultimately like four of those people matter to the actual plot. Also based on like local legend. That movie's just um, a little more economical in how they get through the story, because I think, um, clearly it's not based on historical events; it's based on a folktale.
Yeah.
Whereas this, I think they're kind of trying to be true to a lot of that. And before we get away from it, I do want to shout out. I'm not a big nostalgia guy, but Travis, like, I understand how this would have been like super important to you in 2001, because in 2001, to know and be a fan of a sort of cult movie that not a lot of people knew about
Mm-hmm.
was much cooler than it is today, where everything is available all the time. I remember seeing John Woo's The Killer
Oh yeah.
in like the late 90s, and just proselytizing that movie, trying to get everybody I knew to watch The Killer. I'm like, you've got to see The Killer. It's
Yep.
the greatest thing. And it is it feels important to you when you are one of very few people in your circle who knows what a movie like that is about.
Yeah.
And of course, nowadays, there's a huge French werewolf fandom.
Mhm.
You can
So
probably find a huge French werewolf fandom
Oh, big time.
pretty easily online now. Yeah.
Hmm. And also for me, like at the time, Mark Dacascos he wasn't a household name. He hadn't done like he's a face that most people recognize, um, if for nothing else, than Iron Chef America as the chairman on that.
Right.
Um, but I had seen him in the movie you and I talked about, Phil, Only the Strong, a few years
Yes.
before this, and so I knew who he was. So I was like, anything he was in, I was going to latch on to, because I just loved him. But this movie also introduced me to Vincent Cassel, as John Francois in this, who I've gone on to see in a bunch of other stuff. He's great. This was the first thing I can remember ever seeing him in. Same with Monica Bellucci. Um, this would have been right around the
Yeah.
time that she was starting to show up in more American films as well, because I think The Matrix Reloaded was '01 or '02.
Oh yeah, right around this, because they came out like back to back.
Yeah.
The two Matrix sequels. It
Yep.
would have been like uh, '02 and '03 or '01 and '02. I don't remember, but
I
yeah, it's right around this area.
So
Yeah.
that was another thing for me, is like seeing these actors in this film, and then all of a sudden, like the next year, oh, I remember she was in Brotherhood of the Wolf. Oh, he was in Brotherhood of the Wolf, like that kind of thing. I could tie it to that, so there was a little bit of that to it as well. Um, but yeah, you've got the Beast and these two guys show up. Now that first fight, right away, our introduction to these characters, it's the movie poster, right,
Hmm.
where they've got the high collared
Yeah.
highwaymen jackets and the tri-corner hats. Um, that is such a cool look. I don't care.
They look so badass.
Right?
Yes. You can't see their faces. This guy is doing kung fu on the
Hmm.
French countryside. You're like, what is going on?
They're fighting a bunch of
Um,
dudes dressed as women for some reason.
yes. Yes. So strange. Yes.
Um,
But that was the point. Right before that was the woman who got attacked by the thing we don't see, which was great.
yep.
And it was like this hooked me like right there. It was like this movie gets its meat hooks into you like immediately with those two sequences.
Yeah. It really starts off strong, and believe it or not, that first fight was originally longer. There's actually a deleted version of it, or like an unedited version of it, that it was in 3 parts. It had Manny get
Okay.
down and fight, and then Gregoire get down and fight, and then they fought together. And I've seen that, and it's a great, like the choreography in it is amazing. But they realized, no, we can't have like this 10-minute long fight scene to open our movie. That's just too much. And I think also kind of hiding Gregoire being able to fight the way that he can and save that for a later
Right.
reveal was kind of more impactful. But what I loved about that opening sequence is, and it carries through this whole movie, it is just gorgeous. I mean, everything in the cinematography, in the way they shot things, in the coloring. I am a fan. Again, this kind of shows sort of when I was really getting into filmmaking. I am a fan of kind of the early 2000s look of a lot of editing, which they did a lot of ramp up edits. And
Well, yeah. The weird slow-mo to ramp up to kind of almost the turns. Yeah, this movie's full of it.
like, I'm pretty sure Zack Snyder saw this movie and was like, I can do that. I can do an entire movie of that.
100% Zack Snyder took notes while watching this. Yes.
Austin, I'm curious, for you, is something like that, does that just seem really dated and cheesy to you to see those kinds of filmmaking techniques?
A little bit. Like, I knew right away this was an older kind of movie just based off that.
Mhm.
But I kind of prefer it. Like, I'm not huge on action scenes in general, but I feel like there was something here in a lot of the choreography that felt, I don't know, it felt maybe a little less cohesive or like clear to see what's going on compared to like more modern fight scenes, but
Mm-hmm.
that felt more real to me. uh it felt more like you're in it,
Like
kind of with,
frenetic.
yeah,
Like the quick cut editing.
Yeah.
yeah, because you can kind of feel like the force of the swing with that and whatnot. uh
Yeah, there's something
I don't
to
know how
that,
to put it
like,
into words.
you shoot everything overcranked, shoot it all slow, because this is all shot on film. This is pre-digital.
Yeah.
So they're shooting on film, so they're going to overcrank and do everything in slow motion, and then in the edit they'll play it back and they can ramp it up. And I just think there's something very visual about that, especially with the setting they had, because it's like a French countryside, a hillside, but it's muddy and it's pouring rain, and they're
The
wearing
rain.
the look of everybody is just great. You get like these great hair flips and like impacts when people get hit. There's something about a ramp up to the strike and then slowing down the aftermath of the hit, like all that kind of stuff really works for me. And it's a very stylistic type of fight choreography as well.
It's a
it's
little
style.
like V
Go ahead,
for
Austin.
Vendetta.
Yeah.
Kind of
Oh
doesn't have a
yeah.
similar kind of action
Hmm.
fight sequence to that. I don't know. It kept reminding me of that throughout this movie, and of course, that movie's very French influenced as well.
Yeah.
Uh, but there's something there.
Well, there was there was the Wachowskis. There is this. There are a lot of movies of this time who like this is like there's no denying this is a stylistic thing. This is the thing you put forward and go. This is the visual fight style. It's a very like fingerprint thing. The Wachowskis hit big with the Matrix doing stuff like this, and they got copied 1,000 times. The difference is the people who use that style as like a crutch, and that's all they had.
Hmm.
And you get a movie like this that's like, no, we got some other stuff going on here. Because I want to segue this into like talking about Manny as the lone Native American character who, in his second fight, I realized this was the guy from Only the Strong. I'm like, this is the guy. Travis made me watch this guy last time too, and I was like, because I recognized the way he was fighting because he
Hmm.
was like dance fighting
Yep.
those dudes where he's kicking them into the net. But his whole character, Austin says that right before or right before the part where they were all questioning, when everybody's sort of like treating him like a curiosity, Austin says this movie has such a interesting angle on Native Americans, and it was a really fascinating kind of thing because it like in my mind they leaned into like Native American stereotypes and sort of the mystical person of color, but also like they treated it with a lot of respect in a lot of other ways. It was Austin could speak more to it because I think he was taking a lot of notes in it, but I thought he was right on the button with that because Mark Dacascos's character was just so interesting, and the way the movie treated him was wild.
Hmm.
In not all in a lot of 25 almost year old movies, we're looking back at the way they portrayed Native Americans or people of color or tribal people and going, ugh, that's not aging well. And this actually, I don't know. It had some of that, I guess, but I didn't feel like this was an offensive thing. I'm not sure.
It felt almost like the filmmakers were kind of like obsessed with Native American culture, not in a bad way, but they were like, yeah, let's make this a part of the movie, especially since the whole New France and the founding of Canada was happening at the time.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's weird because he's not even a Native American actor, and uh, they. I am right in that, right?
Correct. Yeah. No, he's
He's of
He's
Hawaiian, Native Hawaiian.
multi Asian
Yeah.
heritage. Yeah,
yeah, but they play him as this character, and they have multiple scenes where like uh they show how like, oh well, he's not Christian, and they kind of belittle him,
Yeah.
but the movie clearly makes you feel like these are bad people for thinking that.
Oh,
right.
absolutely. Yeah, because
And then
these are the French aristocracy that he's dealing with in this
yes,
village, and like there's multiple instances of that. I had a few different notes of like you don't search for vengeance by spilling Christian blood, and they're this savage and this
Yeah.
savage. Like these are the upper crust French people that are just the worst.
it's very very clear discrimination.
Hmm.
But I think my favorite moment of it was him using his ritual healing
Yep.
on the one girl that was found almost dead,
Oh,
and
yeah.
bringing her back to life. And I don't know, I just find it so funny because like there are actual Native American remedies that do help heal people, and you could use that in your film, but instead they went with like magic
Like
dust.
magic. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's multiple instances of that where it's like, oh, you're really respecting this culture, but you're also horribly misrepresenting it in like factually incorrect ways.
And they
But
towed
still
the
kind
line
of
with
try to
that.
be respectful.
Yeah,
I don't know.
like there was even a moment where when they get during the wolf hunt, that giant hunt where everybody's out hunting, which was awful,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Because they're all out
Mhm.
they're just a bunch of idiots
it was
hunting wolves.
brutal.
Yeah, it was.
It's so brutal to watch.
But you get like Gregoire and Manny want nothing to do with it because
Right,
he already kind of has this idea like this isn't a wolf. All right, we're not looking for just a wolf. This is dumb.
right.
So they take Marianne and they ride off and they get to that ruin, the Templar ruin. And
Oh yeah,
I love that moment because Manny starts doing the like a bunch of people died here. I can hear their screams, and Gregoire's like, Manny, don't do that. Like,
right.
come on.
He's like
Which
playing into the
yeah,
mysticism.
he's playing into it, and Gregoire's like, come on, dude, really? And that gets then paid off when he's like, all you have to do is be observant, and he pulls back the vines, and you see the Templar symbol,
The
and
Templar, yeah,
like I loved that kind of stuff. But you're right, like they did toe that line of because Gregoire is very much they label him as a libertine from Paris,
right,
and he's very much in like just the opposite of the aristocracy, and is not afraid to call them out on stuff either, which I loved. Like, oh, it'd be great if you came to dinner with us, and it would be so entertaining with your valet. And he's like, he's not my valet at
right,
all. Um,
Mhm.
but then he'll turn around and do the whole well. Manny's people believe in animal totem, and like we'll do this type of thing. So like he didn't have a problem with kind of leaning into it at times, but also there were lines that you didn't cross. They were blood brothers, and I loved that aspect of it too. Like this idea that they became close because of what Gregoire went through in the Americas with the French army. That
right,
was a great scene. You know, when he figured out what his captain was doing and how he was fighting, I'm using big air quotes, right? The whole
right.
smallpox. He was like,
It was
well,
essentially germ warfare.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, which is like, yeah, that's the distinction is I feel like the characters of the movie are racist, but the movie itself isn't. They
Right.
they are talking about like the mistreatment of like Native Americans and the horrible shit that the colonizers did back then,
Mm-hmm.
to go in and try and wipe out entire populations. And I also like that Manny is essentially just like messing with them. Like they would, oh, could you mate with a French woman? And Manny basically just says like it's all pink on the inside,
Yeah.
the old school version of that. And like they go to the brothel, and
Mm-hmm.
he like they have to like find the girl who's willing to sleep with and he's just like, okay, look what y'all are missing out on. It's just all these weird. He's just like a weird there's like a weird comedy coming from this character at the same time. And then like the whole uh juxtaposition of him against the aristocracy is like, I don't know if you've ever read like the old Conan pulp novels, the old like Robert E. Howard, Conan the Barbarian kind of things. Like the bottom line of all of those is they all call him a savage, and then the wealthy upper class of all these societies are actually displaying more savage behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And that is essentially like a through line of Manny watching them slaughter these wolves,
Oh yeah. Oh
and watching them just be horrible, terrible rich people, and let people starve and all these other things. It's just, I don't know, I found that to be like such an interesting uh character in a very sort of mixed message kind of way sometimes, but
I
I liked him.
I think that's where the comedy comes in with him is uh they all care so much about what other people think, and he's just like whatever.
yeah.
And
Right.
they they think that's savage, but when you look at like their actions and how they're acting, he has more class than them just
Oh yeah.
by
Yeah.
being proper noble and not really caring what people think.
Yeah. There was even like a moment where one of the aristocrats says, well, who cares what the beast is doing? It's just killing vermin anyway. Like, it's just killing the poor people.
Right.
And you juxtapose that with like the look on Manny's face when they have just the pile of wolves after the hunt, or even more so, the moment when the king finally sends his hunter to come get like
Oh
to
yeah.
come, and that guy had zero interest in actually hunting the beast. The king had zero interest in him hunting the beast. He just wanted to go. It was a grand gesture of, I'm going to send this guy in, and then when he gets there, we're going to make up a lie of him killing the beast, and that will placate the people.
Right.
And when de Fronsac doesn't want to do the taxidermy, but he kind of backed into a corner. And he doesn't really have a choice. But Manny gives him the stank eye before leaving.
Yeah.
Like, Manny's like,
he really
"All
sold
right,
out.
I know what you're doing, and I don't approve of it, but I can't stop you, so I'm leaving." There was so much said in that look from Manny, and I loved that. And then, of course,
I think it's.
he's got to do the
Oh,
thing.
sorry.
So. No, go ahead.
I just think it's odd because we have scenes like that where it's showing like the real issue with this higher social class and kind of how they're ruling the government at the time. But then ultimately, the bad guy in this movie is the revolution itself, with the Red Book and uh, the French Revolution and how they're handling that. And I kind of don't, at the end of the day, know what the movie's stance is on it, except for I really read into the fact of there's this one character who's part of the whole group of revolutionists who live in the hillside. The one woman that Manny keeps glancing at and is clearly attracted to.
Yeah.
And I think there's a thing in there where each time they're about to stop, like put an end to the fight per se, someone comes face to face with her and hesitates to stop the revolution because she's too beautiful.
Yeah.
They kind of hesitate, and then finally at the end, the one prostitute, she's not phased at all. She kind of sees through the beauty of the lies of this revolution and like is not hesitating to end it. But I don't know what their message is with all that symbolism.
It's hard to say because Christophe Gans has said, one of his quotes is like, it's important to consider that horror movies should be like modern art and not have too obvious of a meaning. And so he kind of comes at things with a lot of that sort of, he gets into that surrealism a lot and sort of you find your own meaning in it type of thing. I'm not going to put him at the same level as somebody like a David Lynch, but it's that kind of an idea. Where he doesn't want it to be cut and dry. He wants it to kind of be a little bit weird in that way. So
you can kind of pick
and
out
it has
your
some
own
ambiguity in it for sure.
Yeah, and ambiguity, I think, works a lot as long as you're kind of given, you're given a little bit of information to be able to then say one way or the other. Oh, it could be this, it could be that, could be either or none of that. And I like that personally. So, but I liked him as a director, and it's interesting. So I mentioned Crying Freeman. His first movie wasn't a full length. It was 90. I want to say 2 or 3, and it's one that I covered I think 2 years ago. Was a anthology called Necronomicon, and he was part of that. It was marketed as H.P. Lovecraft's Necronomicon. He did a segment in that. That was kind of his first film, and then he did Crying Freeman, and then a few years later he does this movie. He only did 2 other films so far after this, which is kind of interesting to think about because this movie came out in 2001. He did Silent Hill in 2006, the first adaptation of that, which took him years to get the rights for, but he desperately wanted to do it. And then he did a version of Beauty and the Beast in 2014. And that's it for directing credits. for him, which
It's so wild.
is bizarre to me. Like, he's had a lot of projects that he's started working on. He was going to do a video game adaptation of Onimusha. Um, he's worked on a lot of Silent Hill. Like, he was supposed to originally do the sequel and then left that project. And he's been working on a script for another one for a while now, as well as Fatal Frame, which is another video game. He's apparently a big video game guy.
That French Beauty and the Beast adaptation, I have heard a lot of people rave about. I think it's the same one because 2014 sounds about right. Uh, and I've seen clips of it, but I haven't actually watched it. But I know people really like that movie.
Yeah,
So
I've
if
heard some
that's the
good
same
things too.
director I'm thinking of, that's a pretty cool connection.
But he had such an interesting take on visuals in a film. Like the first
Yeah.
Silent Hill. And the other thing too is, normally if I see somebody in an IMDb page that doesn't have that many directing credits, they're typically all really low rated, and they were just kind of director for hire and sort of flamed out or whatever. All his stuff rates decently. It's all kind of in that 6 to 7, like, kind of cult
Yeah.
following stuff. It's just weird that he's so much time between movies and not continually. I feel like he could have been a lot more prolific, but maybe it was just he's just very picky. And it's that kind of artist side of things.
Yeah, I'm seeing this too. A lot of times I've noticed, like, if their director credits are really spread out, like they have a ton of writer credits, like they're a writer
Mhm.
who once in a while directs or something like that. But I have heard people say, and I don't know what Gans has been doing, but like I do know that like sometimes people direct in theater, or
Yeah,
they go and direct commercials or music videos or something that doesn't necessarily generate like an IMDb credit. Uh, a lot of times people are working a lot more than IMDb is just a very surface level
that's true.
sort of shot of what somebody's career is sometimes. So I know you're not saying that, but I do think that's just an important thing to kind of point out, because some people kind of look at an IMDb and go, "Oh, this guy's a loser," you know. And the reality is, like, you're only getting a snapshot of what this person could have a ton of stuff in development,
Hmm.
uh, or you know, there's a lot of different sort of scenarios where somebody who's actually working a lot um is, you know, their filmography maybe doesn't, of finished projects anyway, doesn't really reflect that.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of the Bill Watterson effect, right? Like, Bill Watterson did Calvin and Hobbes, and then he didn't do anything commercial ever because that just wasn't his thing. But he was always painting, he was always doing stuff, but it wasn't
Right.
something that was in the public eye. So that could be the case here too. I like his style. I love his visuals, and combining him with Dan Lauritsen was the director of photography for this movie, who has had a very prolific career, and went on to do actually all 3 of the John Wick sequels were shot by him. He did work on
Interesting.
Silent Hill, um, and all of that. And I just keep coming back to, like, the look of this movie, the colors on it, the like, there's shots where, people are riding on horses, and you got a bunch of them heading out for the hunt, and, like, they have this just really interesting. It's very flat, and you can see kind of everybody very well.
Yeah,
I love, some of those shots, and, like, the way they would saturate certain colors. The reds really pop in this. Anybody wearing
for
red,
sure.
it's just bright red on this, like, and it's not even a muted color palette. It's just dark. And shooting dark like that can sometimes be tough because you can just be vastly underlit. Dan Lauritsen knows how to shoot stuff dark that you can still see what's going on.
Right. Right. It's not day for night. It's
Mhm.
not all lost in darkness and weird dark filters they put on stuff.
Yeah.
Uh I was never lost in like the geography of even like a complicated shot. I always knew where I was. I knew what was going on. And to do that in an action where there's a lot of hand-to-hand fighting, especially, and close quarters, and you're going in and out of buildings, and sneaking through, like the very end where he John Wicks his way through all the revolutionaries.
Yep.
It's and to be able to know where everybody's at, like that's one of those jobs people don't realize like how hard that is until you watch a movie that doesn't do it well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But no, I think this was spot on. And I gotta say, this guy shoots weather like nobody's business. The rainstorms were amazing. The snowstorm scenes where they were hunting at night in the snowstorm, one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen.
I
really
adored those.
like. I love that scene so much just for the visual look of it. I thought it was amazing.
Mm-hmm. He also, by the way, Dan Lauritsen was the cinematographer for Nightmare Alley, but with the Guillermo del Toro movie from a couple
Guillermo
years
del
ago.
Toro, yeah.
I more love snow scenes.
Yeah, and that movie is absolutely gorgeous. So the guy, he's good. And yeah, that stuff in the snow, just like the way the rain was at the beginning, like it just looks so good. And it doesn't look like, it looks both like a movie, but also real. If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, totally. This isn't a fantasy world. It's not Narnia or Middle Earth or anything like that. It is like, this is the poor countryside of France.
Yeah.
You know, which I do also love how much they sort of kind of point that out and remind him, like, you're an outsider here. And when they are talking about, oh, is he a scientist? Is he a philosopher? Is he a gardener? And the one lady says, I think he's just a Parisian. Like, he's a city boy. He doesn't understand us out here. And he's trying to like laugh at us for thinking his fish with fur, which was a dick move. He like tells a story about finding a fish with fur on it. He has a fake it's basically like this medieval French version of the jackalope.
Yep.
It's this fake taxidermy thing. And then he laughs at them and calls them stupid for believing it. It's just like,
I love that scene though.
It is funny, but it's like, hey, you're kind of being a dick right now.
You want to talk about self-indulgent scenes. This movie has a lot of them, but I feel like especially like that one, really all the dinner party scenes that they had there. I just feel like it set up the characters and who they are, and also the philosophy or the debate of, is this wolf real? Is this a real thing?
Yep.
Or is this a mass hysteria? And you guys are a little delusional. And I like that he pokes fun at them without really knowing who they are.
Because like he's got this idea, like he does not believe the beast to be just a wolf. And so like he's just got to somehow sort of prove that point of like, not everything is what you think it is.
Right.
And you know, here's an example of that. And I kind of like how it gives us a little bit of insight into a lot of the characters, because this is a scene, Jean-Francois in that scene doesn't buy it from the get-go. Like he doesn't believe in the furry trout at all. And because he knows that like the beast, obviously we find out what he knows about the beast, but like he understands that about people. And so he knows kind of where Gregoire's coming from with that as well. So it's one of those things where when you watch it again, you pick up on the clues and the breadcrumbs they're giving you for his character right away. Like, sure, once you see that the guy in the mask that's controlling the beast is using his right arm, it's like, well, okay, obviously it's the dude with no right arm. That's the swerve.
Right.
But
yes, we all definitely picked up on that.
Oh, so you didn't, huh?
I didn't. I was convinced it was the prostitute who was kind of in control of everything, just because they painted her as a mysterious foreigner who was clearly
that's
evil.
True. Yeah,
she's mystical in a lot of ways. I thought Jean-Francois was the guy from Jump Street, but I thought it was going to be like this American trope of like, oh, we found the beast caught his paw in a trap and lost it. You know what I mean? Like that would be like the reveal, sort of what's it, the Stephen King Cycle of the Werewolf kind of thing with they shoot eye out of the werewolf and then the priest shows up with a missing eye. But but Austin was like, nah, it's too obvious. And it was like, I go, yeah, I guess you're right. It probably is. It's probably like too tropey. I'm thinking like an American. This is a French movie. They'll subvert that. It's like,
I
oh
thought it was a
no,
red
like,
herring.
yeah, no. It made a lot more sense when you said that it would be a red herring. So,
No, yeah.
yeah, it kind of surprised us both because it was super on the nose.
It is, but it's such a good reveal. I read somewhere that, and I don't know how much validity there is to this, that originally Castle was not super keen on being in the movie, but they made the character even weirder and creepier, and he was like, "All right, I'll do it,"
Oh,
because
he's bizarre.
he
He's so
is
twisted.
And then they throw in the whole thing with his sister, and like that got really weird, which I'd forgotten about. And
very uncomfortable to say the least.
so yeah, he was an odd character to say the least. But they give you, if you watch it again, just pay attention for like the breadcrumbs of they're giving you these ideas, like the custom made gun, and the fact that earlier on
Right.
there's the fight that Manny gets into before the hunt with a bunch of the travelers. And that's the one where he fights like the two guys, and then the two women come in and they have a fight,
Yeah.
and then they're all fighting him with those blades, and that ends when Jean-Francois shoots one of them. Well,
Right.
later on when Manny's fighting them all again, it ends when the mysterious masked man shoots one of them. So,
oh yeah.
Wow.
Oh, I hadn't even put that together.
yeah,
but,
that's one of those things where
yeah.
they again.
Thanks for
first time-
watching this 6 times to to bring this home for us, Travis.
It's a service that I provide.
We are grateful.
Next time I have an entire day free, I will rewatch this
Watch
movie
this again.
and see.
And
One
it's
bit
funny.
of foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Sorry. There was just a bit of foreshadowing in the beginning. That afterwards it all clicked together. Because the very first fight, this man and his daughter are being accused of like, I can't remember what it was. Was it?
Oh, they were thieves, and they had made the
yeah.
horses sick or something like that.
Right.
And they were like, no, we made the horses better. We're innocent in this. And they kind of take them at their word and beat the shit out of these guys. But they were also kind of right in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because it was Captain Duhamel's men that were harassing them, and they were like that captain and his regiment were being rough on all of the people in the region, as they were the outsiders and all that kind of stuff. But they end up being the ones that Gregoire can trust and brings in at the end, because they're not
Right.
tied to it, and they're not part of all of this that's going on, and like manufacturing the books and whatnot. It was interesting. I was actually kind of glad that Duhamel came back at the end to be the one, because he had been he got shit on by everybody for failing for so long. So it was great for him to be the one to come back and like stop them all with Gregoire. I liked that.
It's a nice redemption.
Yeah, there was just stuff like that they kept, like they paid off a lot, because again, there's a lot of characters, there's a lot of stuff going on in this movie, that you could trim down and make it more about the Beast, or more about the revolution, or more
Right.
about like focus it in just a little bit more. And I think you do hour and 45 minutes.
Well, I think that it is trying to balance all of these things, and that was the biggest drawback to me, aside from the running time. I have written down here: can a single motion picture be a kung fu B movie, a period piece melodrama, an art house film, and a softcore porn movie? This movie says yes. This movie does so many things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also like, it is a French period political drama.
Yep.
It is a horror movie. It's doing all of these things, but it's not leaning too far into any of them. So it almost comes up as like being none of them.
Yeah.
But also touching base with all of it. It's a very odd mixture. And I would have loved, I went in really expecting this to be a French, I mean, it's listed as a action horror movie.
Yeah.
And I really thought it was going to be like especially when it opens up with Manny doing kung fu, or Brazilian dance fighting, or whatever martial art that he does. It's I expected that to be, oh, this is setting the tone. This is what this movie is going to be. And it's so much not that, at least not through the whole thing.
Right. No,
So
you're right.
It was kind of hard for me to grasp a hold of this.
It is one I feel like you either can get into it and maybe watch it again, or it doesn't quite land with you. But the funny thing is, it does all of those things, and each of those individual parts it does really well too. Because it would be very easy for like the historical drama part of it to not work, or this part of it to not work. It kind of all works. It's just so much to pack into one movie that can be that barrier to entry, where it can be tough to, you might tell somebody, oh, you should watch Brotherhood of the Wolf. Oh, but it's 2.5 hours long and it's a French film. And it's like, well, there's some barriers to entry already.
Sure.
And the pacing is a little hit or miss. Like there's a lot of stuff you could trim out. I mean, for as much as I love Monica Bellucci, and the character of Sylvia was interesting and had some just like interesting individual moments, you could cut her character out of the movie. I don't think it changes anything, really.
I think there's a lot of scenes that felt like you got everything you needed to out of the scene to advance the story, and then it kept going for another 3 to 5 minutes. I felt like every movie just went on just a few minutes too long, and it added some character pieces. It added some transitions so that it went from being one thing into another, kind of into another genre. It didn't feel it had some amazing transitions. Austin and I laughed, but I honestly thought this was amazing when they go from Gregoire going to draw the prostitute.
Oh yeah.
And she changes into a mountain range with her boobs being the mountains, and it's ridiculous, but it's also like, that is kind of cool. Like that's a cool visual trick to shift us into the winter. It's like does the time jump, and it's like, and then it became winter and we were still hunting the beast. And it's like, I want to laugh at it because it's so ridiculous, and to make boobs morph into mountains is so on the nose, but it's like, it's cool. It looked cool, and it did the job of shifting us through the time jump. I can't knock it, honestly. I thought it was a really interesting and very French way to do that.
It's the type of
that
thing.
Is a French.
Yeah, it's the type of thing that I see it and I'm like, that is so dumb, and I love it because it's so dated. That is such a like late 90s to early 2000s trick and thing to do. But I loved that. So there's just a charm to it.
I can't knock it. There was a few things like that were dumb that I thought, this is cheesy, but somehow it fits into this movie really well. I can, and I had a hard time, like the bad CGI of the beast when we finally see it. It's like, this looks very 2001 limited budget.
Yep.
But somehow, like, I'll go with it. I'm not, it looked kind of like a sci-fi original CGI monster.
Yeah.
But it's like, this has brought me in this far without showing it to me, without giving me a good look at it. They're trying to hide it until the very end. They really did a good job of sort of like shooting around it. You catch a glimpse of it. You did this very good thing to do when you can't really have a great monster in there. It didn't take me out of it in the way that a lesser movie, I think, would have. That creature in a lesser movie, I would have been like, that's it, I'm shutting this off, fuck this movie, whatever.
Because it wasn't relying on the CGI. It wasn't like, this is why it's scary.
Mm-hmm.
the effects kind of reminded me of the original Mummy, which was around
Oh,
the same
interesting.
time, I
Yeah,
think,
same
right?
era. Yeah.
Same, yeah.
What did you think of having the Beast be just an animal that they like made basically spiky armor and put on it? Because it's effective. It's
I
just a
actually,
lion, pretty
I
much.
thought I thought it was cool. I thought it was a interesting way to, Austin. You talked about like where does this film land in terms of like the revolution? It's like it's not it's not necessarily anti-revolutionary, but it is. I think having it be that, then it frames the revolution as like it's cool to rebel against an oppressive government, but it's not cool to use a weapon of mass destruction against citizens. And I think that's sort of where having it be a tool of sort of bad actors in a revolution uh, maybe kind of helps draw that line a little bit. And I think it was cool. And again, it's like a Sleepy Hollow nod, where the headless horseman in Sleepy Hollow is really just a tool of
Yeah.
somebody else who's using it for revenge. It's I think a nice twist, even if it is. I guess it's not a trope, but I guess it seems like it was used a lot around this time. Um, I liked it. I thought that was a nice twist on it, so it's not just like a mindless monster we're fighting people here.
Yeah.
It's like a man-made problem.
Yep. It is interesting why his arm had to be so mangled and nasty, and they never really talk about that either. Like his right arm
Yeah,
is all weirdly marked and scarred, and the fingernails are all long. Like how did that help him control the beast? We don't really know. But that's sort of that like ambiguous, open to interpretation type of thing where it has some effect, and something happened to him in Africa, but we
yeah.
don't know what. We don't know what he learned.
Again, 25 years ago, there were not internet forums demanding every aspect of a plot like this be
Yeah,
scientifically explained,
that's also
and we
true.
could just sort of go with it. I think
Yeah, you do it.
Plot hole,
I miss those
actually.
days. I really do miss those days.
Yeah, I do too. I'll be honest, but I did capture a few clips because there were some moments that just made me chuckle, that were pretty good, and just some. It's weird because it's not a it's a dialogue heavy movie, but there's not like a ton of just super impactful lines. I felt,
Right.
and this is the English dub, which is the version that I initially saw as well.
That is also on Amazon Prime right now.
Yes. Yep.
If someone wants a dub, if that guy from Shudder is still looking for an English version,
Yeah, it's right there.
it's on Prime. You can check it out.
We went full French with ours, but it had some questionable subtitle
It was
translations.
it was kind of funny.
Yeah, I've heard that. So take it for what you will. But I just like Gregoire. First of all, guy's got some game, right? Because he shows up and he immediately sees Marianne, and he's just like taken by her. Because I mean, if you take one look at her, Emily Duquesne. Sure, that's butchered. I don't care. But she plays Marianne. But when
No, yeah.
when Gregoire sees her, he's just like, well, I got to talk to her. And he comes over and he just immediately like, what is it? The line about, I've seen some of this country's beauty, or at least one of them. And he's like talking to her, and
He's dropping every line.
yeah, he's
Mhm.
just, he is putting it out there. And to her credit, she's not really impressed, but also she gives that like, yeah, but you're cute. You can get away with a little bit of this. But
Right.
that first meeting, then when the dinner bell rings, I just love this.
Let's go to dinner.
Whither thou goest.
And he gives that little There were a few of those moments, a little that, or like Manny making a face at somebody when they're in the middle of a fight.
Yeah.
Because they're doing their intimidation, angry faces, and he's just like, nah. I love
Yeah.
that. I
He's
want more of
mocking
that.
them. Yeah.
We talked about a little bit about the kind of self-indulgent type of scenes, and the dinner scenes, especially the anything with the aristocracy. That playwright, Maxime, That guy.
Yeah.
Oh boy. When I first saw this movie and this particular moment came up, it was difficult to watch because I definitely felt like secondhand embarrassment for this guy when he starts to recite his poem in front of all of them.
Oh, yeah.
Oh boy.
So here is the wonderful poem, which I liked because it was like, I wrote a poem this morning. It was improvised. It just came to me. And he's clearly making it up on the spot of,
I was caught unawares, though I thought not of evil. I was caught in your stares, your sly eye pierced my heart. I'm ensnared. Ho, ho, ho!
the howling at the end of it is the best part. Cause then there's that pause and the one guy can't hold it together and just starts to laugh at him. And everyone else is kind of like, they want to start laughing. And for some reason, I hadn't seen this in a few years, and I had the memory that they all did start to laugh, but it was just the one guy, and Maxime cannot get small enough in his chair after that.
It's Michael Scott dancing on the Booze Cruise, or
Yes.
any sort of like cringe moment from The Office.
Oh, it was rough.
It felt like a little kid at the family dinner being like, "Hey, we've put together a dance performance.
Right.
You all are gonna watch me."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So Sylvia, Monica Bellucci's character, kind of almost becomes like his therapist for a little while. There's like scenes where he just goes to see her, and she's like, "I know you love the girl." Da da da. Like, she's almost therapy for him. But I did like when, after he's done the taxidermy, he hasn't left yet to go back to Paris, but he's laying in the bed, and she's like, "But the beast is dead. You should be happy." And he's like, "Yeah, except the guy didn't actually kill the beast, and he made me fake it out and all that." And I just love this line.
Come, let's drink to our betrayals.
Something good about that. I don't know. I like
Yeah.
that one.
It's a good one.
She also has a moment where he asks her like if she can keep a secret, and she says, "I collect them."
Yeah. Oh,
because she's she's everybody goes to the brothel to do things and talk about things that
Yep.
they can't do otherwise. Yeah, it's I thought really interesting.
Austin, you mentioned how like we meet those two characters, the girl and her dad at the beginning, that are getting beat up by the soldiers. And we're meant to think that they're innocent, and we get a second version of that when after the fight around the hunt, and dad grabs her and like brings her over, like, "Gentlemen, she started all of this. It's her fault.
Oh yeah,
do whatever you want with her." And she just goes right into a seizure, which I'm not sure if it was her staging that or if she was like actually having a seizure, however that plays out. But the dad being like,
"She's not possessed. She's not possessed." I know.
Like, they're kind of like, "Look, we're not we're not witches, we're not evil," type of thing. Because I do feel like that character was just sort of like, that old man just wanted to take care of animals, and he was taking care of the beast because it needed to be taken care of, but he didn't really care about the revolution part of it. And I don't
think it felt very real, because I mean, I'm sure in that time epileptic people were like,
oh yeah, I bet,
looked at as like demons or something for having seizures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Vincent Cassel just is always good, but I liked these two exchanges. One was with Gregoire when he's showing off his bullets, the silver bullets that he makes.
Oh yeah,
himself, and he's like, "I always use these," and they're hunting a wolf, right, or what they think is a wolf.
"Silver, are you afraid of werewolves?"
No.
He's like, "No, I just like to sell my shots." And I mean,
Austin, I was looking at Vincent Cassel's filmography, and you'll be surprised to know from the same year he was Robin Hood in Shrek.
Yep, that's right.
Oh,
the dancing,
and he's French
singing
in
Robin
that,
Hood.
yeah.
Yes, yeah. I was just surprised too. I was just looking this film. I'm like, oh wow, look at that.
But I love that because he's so confident that he's like, yeah, no, I sign my shots. Like I shoot all silver bullets.
Right.
And he, later on, he shoots Manny with that's how Gregoire figures
With
it
the
out,
silver bullet,
because he
yeah.
pulls the silver bullet out of Manny and realizes who it is. It's like this guy just he thinks he's untouchable, even to his own father. And he has the exchange when Marianne and Gregoire ride off before the hunt, and he's like, we can't be letting this happen and all this. He's talking to his father, and I just liked,
my father sees no evil.
And my son sees evil everywhere.
the dad is like,
Yeah.
Again, the dad isn't part of this. He's
right.
Even though the Jean-Francois and his mother are part of this whole revolution and part of all of it that's going on with the priest and everybody, the dad and the sister aren't. They're completely unaware of what's going on.
Yeah, the dad just seemed like the good-natured idiot. Like he was really unaware of any social problems. He was unaware of any like revolution. He was just like, life is good. Things are fine.
Yeah, he's like,
and really just seemed unbothered by a lot of things.
Yeah, he's got money. He's got status. What does he care?
Yeah.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, I just like...
Grandfather tells me you fought the English in New France.
I like New France. I like hearing...
New France sounded
New
weird.
France. Yeah.
I guess, it makes sense if they were, it was Canada, right? Like it wasn't just all the Americas, or was it?
I mean, it would have been
was it specifically Canada, right?
Yeah, it would have been that area, like Canada, northern sort of, actually where I am, like northern England, Michigan, New England, northern New York, like all of that would have been New France. And it makes sense that the French people would call it New France because it's what it was to them. What was no more? Oh, so this was when he gets back to Paris and they have the big reveal to the king of the Pokemon that he made. It's really what it was. It was.
It really was. He took it to what's the next like evolution of it?
Yeah, it was Wolfo evolved into Beast. But then he's talking to like random dude that we meet for one scene that is like the it's weird because he's like behind the whole thing of sending somebody. He was the advisor that told the king to send somebody and like squash the rumors. But I just liked this was sort of the it's the spread or tell a lie so that lies don't get spread was a good line. But I also just liked
the beast was causing a problem. No more beast, no more problem.
It will continue to kill.
No one will ever hear of the beast again, and that's what counts.
They're controlling the narrative, as those in power often do. So, and Gregoire's just like, I want to do something about this, but what am I going to like? It's going to do no good. He understands he can't really change what he would like to. So,
it was also shot like super interesting too. Like,
oh yeah,
the guy who's talking to him is like right up in his face,
and
then like in the other half of the frame, like is the guy standing behind him, kind of like smirking at him. It's just there was just something about those shots. I thought, I'm like, man, they're just like taking conversation and just presenting it in such interesting kind of ways. I thought it was really cool.
Well, it's almost a form of fight choreography in a way, but with dialogue.
Yeah.
And setting up this guy's right up in his face, and he's the dominant force in this conversation, and then you've got his lackey behind him of like, haha, yeah, you can't do nothing about it, and then Gregoire's like, I can't. So he was ready to give up. What was talks in? I don't remember what this was, and I just recorded it. All right, here it is.
And when he's drunk too much, he talks in his sleep like an old man.
All right, yeah. That was when she goes to... Oh, no, that's her talking to Gregoire about Jean-Francois.
Right.
Which is when we realize, oh, okay, she's playing both halves against the middle. She's working Gregoire, but she's also like dealing with Jean-Francois at the same time, she's on her own side. We don't really know where she's coming from. That's the mystery of her.
Yeah, you know, she, even if she's not playing them both, she knows each of them only has half the picture, but
Yeah.
she has the whole thing. She's getting, you know, she's sleeping with everybody, and therefore like getting all the secrets, like she said. It's really cool.
And she's kind of
Just
the
kind of
only
an
one.
observer.
Yeah, she's kind of the only one that does know both sides.
She's like the smartest one in town, basically. You know. Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure on the payroll of the Vatican, right? She was definitely there for the Vatican.
Yeah. Didn't she say come to Rome? Was there to? Was that her?
You know, she might have. Yeah, at the end.
Somebody wanted him to come to Rome with them, and yeah,
that was her.
And then he was like, and she goes, you know what? Never mind. It's too late. Moments passed. You had your
you're not Vatican material.
You had your 2 seconds and you blew it. There was just a couple of lines that really hammered home the French aristocracy and sort of what would lead to the revolution. Is we touched on this, but this was and I don't remember what his name was, but he was like the not the ruler, but he sort of was in charge of the little village or the county or whatever. And he said,
one does not seek vengeance for a savage by spilling Christian blood.
Well, first of all, Manny's not a savage. Quit using that word. Because they like a lot of them did that, right? Jean-Francois talked about the savages in Africa and all of that. Like, enough with the savages, but also by spilling Christian blood. Well, or you could, because that's what he did, and he was pretty effective with it. So,
yeah, that guy was basically like the magistrate or something. He was like, or the chief of police kind of thing.
That's the word I was looking for, was magistrate. And this is the father character of Jean-Francois and Marianne, and this is where, like, again, he's just rich. He doesn't really care, but also he looks down on the people beneath him because this is what he says about the beast.
Enough said about this evil beast. After all, it only devours vermin.
It's only eating poor people.
Right.
So what does he care about it? And he's just like, I'm just done with whatever. And then
just wait till the guillotine's invented.
Right?
Then you'll see.
Yeah. And finally, I liked this one because this is when Gregoire and Manny first get to the Marquis's home, and they're staying there. And they come inside, and of course, the young Marquis is like just asking him 1,000,001 questions. And he's like, dude, I am tired. I have been traveling all day. We just fought a bunch of dudes in the rain, in leather. Like, that was hard work. I just want to chill out and sit in front of a fire. And when the guy leaves, he just flops down on the bed and says,
it isn't Versailles, but his wine is good.
It's good enough. It's good. Yeah. Just good wine. That's all you need. Yeah, that's Brotherhood of the Wolf, I think, is a real fun kind of cult classic movie. I'm glad you guys watched it and overall seemed to enjoy it. Phil, you said that you overall liked it.
Yeah, like I said, I've got some drawbacks. I'm not like in a hurry to watch it again.
Sure.
Because I think my biggest thing keeping me from watching this movie more will be just like that it's long and slow paced. And that's a bit of a chore. But I'm super glad that I did watch it. I do see like what you and what Hammond and people who sort of like found this movie early seeing this movie. And I did have one question about this that you might know. Has Tarantino ever singled this movie out as like a influence or something that he like, sometimes he'll just highlight a weird movie and go, this is great. Because there's a shot in this that I feel like he lifted directly for The Hateful Eight. There's a shot of a crucifix going into like the second half of the movie. It's a crucifix in the rain, and it sort of goes up and pans across it and then comes down on the road where they're riding. And that's the opening of The Hateful Eight, except it's snow instead of rain. And in both of these, this is the thing that really stood out to me. The Marquis is one of the figures on the road there. And in Hateful Eight, it's the stagecoach coming up to Samuel L. Jackson, whose name is Major Marcus Warren, but Marcus is spelled Marquis. It's spelled and I'm just like, this seems like one of those Tarantino Easter eggs that is so specific to a weird foreign movie that no one would ever pick it up unless
I
they
could
just
see
stumbled
that.
on it.
I could I don't know. I've never heard him mention that or read any interviews where he said that, but I could absolutely see that because this would be the type of movie that I think he would dig. And
Right,
certainly would
right.
have at that
Just
point. So yeah, I never made that
it just
connection.
yeah, it just I thought if anyone would know, it would be like a big fan of this movie as opposed to like a big Tarantino fan. But which you're both, I believe.
Yes.
So I thought I'd ask you.
Nope. I don't know of any connection there, but it does not surprise me at all if there is one because that is definitely his style. And this was an influential movie for a lot of like filmmakers.
I
This feels like a
yeah,
filmmaker's film, right?
I see a lot of other pieces of things in this from stuff that came before, and I think there was a lot of stuff that came after this that took from this movie,
Mhm.
which I thought was it's always cool to watch an old movie and go, oh, this is the origin of this thing that I love from this newer movie,
Yeah. Yep.
that kind of thing. So yeah,
hmm So Austin, did you overall enjoy the movie?
I really did. I did feel kind of like my dad said that uh, it the switching kind of between genres, scene by scene in the beginning felt very jarring at first. Like, oh, we go from fight scene to very slow philosophical kind of romantic scene. Uh, by the halfway point of the movie, I was just like, yeah, that's this movie. Like,
right.
I was tired after a long day of work, but I was still also really into where this story was going. And I think one of the reasons it felt so long is because I was so into it that I was like, all right, what's going to happen next?
Mm-hmm.
What's going to happen next? And I really did feel the connection between these characters. Um, and so that really drew me in as well. To the point where I kind of felt like the ending was almost Romeo and Juliet style. You know, we had one love interest kind of fake die, and then the female love interest actually dies, but not really.
Mm-hmm.
But then he's back, and then we
Oh
kind of
yeah.
don't know the proper ending.
Oh, wow.
Uh, and I liked the romance there. I really did feel a connection to it. Uh, and so I thought that was kind of the highlight of the movie for me. I was like, we can cut out all the fighting if we need to, but but I really did like the period piece here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's real good, and I think too. One of the things that is a strong suit of this is that the romance angle in it isn't like, oh, love at first sight, immediately they're fine, and like we're gonna focus on that. It takes time for that to build. There's attraction right away, but they even like point that out because at one point he talks about being in love and she's making the assumption like, but we barely know each other. Oh, you thought I was talking about you? Like,
That was really good.
That was a
Yeah.
good line.
because he's
I that's yes, it's tropey to either have them hook up too quick or to have them be like they hate each other until like this
Mhm.
80s rom-com kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I think these actors and this movie did a great job of showing like, oh yeah, they like each other, but they're not going to admit it or make it easy. It is, I thought this movie did it real well, and that's a tough line to walk.
Yeah, and then
He's
on top
he's
of that,
also
oh, go ahead.
uh I find it interesting that he's also sleeping with another woman
Yes.
on the side. Uh but they make it clear. I like that you said she's like his therapist at that point, because it's true. Like, uh, it's almost like a business exchange,
Mhm.
and he makes it clear like, I'm in love with this woman. She knows that. He knows that. Um, and I don't know. I just think that's a really interesting dynamic to have. Like, yeah, this is a love story, but also these people are a little flawed.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just it's interesting to balance all the different things this movie does, and yet it seems to do them all well. It's just so much packed in that
Yeah.
but don't let the 2.5 hours scare you away. Watch the movie; you might enjoy it. If that's too long, or if it's just not your thing, I get it. But like, I think it's worth a watch, even just once. I think it's worth checking out. Plus, it just
Dude,
again,
you can break this up into like 3 viewings
easy.
because it does feel very long, and you could almost watch this like a 3 episode like BBC TV series
Mhm.
season where it's like 3 long episodes. And that would make it digestible, but um yeah, I don't to what you're saying, Travis, I know I'm the one complaining about runtime a lot, and I don't want that to scare people away because I do want to just emphasize I did enjoy that. I'm glad I watched this movie and I enjoyed it overall, and it's one of those things that's so kind of unique that I have to recommend that people give it a shot.
Yeah, and
I think if you're looking for an epic, or you've seen Lord of the Rings a few too many times, and instead of rewatching that, watch this. Not that it's the same thing, but similar
It's a
runtime
big
and
story,
similar, like,
yeah.
big packed, lots of things going on. I think it's a big meal, just like that movie is.
yeah, I do like the idea of breaking it up because I'm normally one that doesn't like to. Once I start a movie, I want to watch it. I want to sit down and
Same.
be there for the whole thing. But this is a movie that has like points in it where you could take a break and you can go
Yeah.
and come back to it, and you're not going to lose that momentum because the movie doesn't have like it has these break point
It
kind
has
of built
a
into it.
place where it feels like it comes to a natural endpoint
Yep.
for an arc. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thank you, boys, both of you, so much for being here. Now you do a show together, the picture show. Is that still
Yep.
going on? You still doing that?
Our number one question coming through
Great
again.
question.
We've been on hiatus since we finished our season about a year ago. Just been real busy with stuff. Austin's got a new show that he'll talk about here in a minute, but I just want to say we are still in business and we are currently recording our October episodes. We're not doing a full season, but we are doing episodes for Halloween. We are doing an episode by episode breakdown of Mike Flanagan's masterpiece, Midnight Mass.
Ooh.
If you've not watched it, I recommend watching it along with us. If you have watched it, watch it again and jump in with us. Austin and I love that series, and we just started recording, and they're gonna just kind of sporadically come out throughout October. So it's a good listen for the Halloween season.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to
Definitely
that.
going to be a good spooky season.
That's right. Travis, have you seen Midnight Mass?
I haven't yet. It's like my Mike Flanagan blind spot. I'm working to fix that actually, though.
I think everyone has a Mike Flanagan blind spot somewhere. But yeah,
and
highly recommend.
I mean, everything else he's done, I've loved. So it's not a question of the question is why haven't I done it yet? And I don't have a good answer. I just haven't. So I'm going to be fixing that. But I look forward to hearing you guys talk about it because I love the picture show. I love listening to you guys because you have such different takes on things, but then there'll be stuff that you both really like, or it's a great conversation between the two of you, and you have great perspectives on stuff. So I really love the show. People should check out the picture show with Austin and Phil Rood. And Austin, you've got another show too that you do that you've had me on.
That's right. I do a Doctor Who review show. We're going episode by episode, starting with season 1 of the revival all the way back in 2005. And eventually we'll get to the present day. But yes, I have a whole bunch of different guests coming on each week. Some episodes are roundtables talking about like the most popular big season finales and openers of the show, and then I kind of just have people come on for like their favorite episodes, so that I always have someone who's really interested in the episode that we're talking about. But we are working on season 2 of that now, and it should be coming out any week now. I have been dragging my feet on editing. It's not my favorite, but me and a buddy of mine are editing them together, and that's really helping with the workload. So stay tuned. It is on Spotify and most places that you can get podcasts.
Excellent. It's a fun show. Who is on first?
That's right. I might not have said the name there. Who is on first?
That's all right. I got you covered. But it's a fun show. I've been on talking about. I mean, I love the Doctor Who revival. So, but it's great because you have such a varied fan base and people to talk to, and it's really cool. So definitely check that out if you're a Whovian at all, and also philroodart.com. Find some of Phil's artwork because some good stuff. I'm loving seeing a bunch of the stuff you did for Aquilo popping up as that campaign is going on for the Aquilo book.
Yeah. While we're at it, let's shout that out. Aquilo.com/book. Please pre-order.
Yes.
The Aquilo book 1. It's getting on halfway there, and JF and Amy are great people who make a great product.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't order it, you will be sorry.
You will be.
I'm not threatening you. You just will be sorry to have missed out on something so awesome.
Yes.
It's the best story set in New France.
Perfect.
Half of it is set in New France. Yes. That's right.
Exactly. Now, if you enjoy this show and this conversation, I do this every week, and I've been doing this every week for almost 5 years now. Actually, over 5 years because I have a problem and I don't know how to stop. But if you do enjoy it, come hang out Sunday nights. You can watch a live stream at 8 p.m. Eastern time on Twitch, twitch.tv/tvstravis, or on YouTube. You can follow me on any social network. You'll find links for all of that. You can also go to tvstravis.com. That's got links to this show, other shows that I do. There's a Patreon for this show that you can find a link for there, or you can go straight to patreon.com/WYHS. Back the show financially, which helps me to do things like the live episodes that I've done in Las Vegas and at Dragon Con in Atlanta this year, and hopefully be able to do more of those. That's super fun, and I am able to do that because of patrons. So if you can back the show there's also other perks and things for patrons that, and I'll be adding more things as we go. You can also help me to decide movies to get people to watch because I'm always looking for ideas. So definitely check all that out. But next week, I kick off my yearly crossover with another show that I'm a part of, Gore. I bring my co-hosts from Gore in, and we do a month of making each other watch creepy movies that we have missed. And next week, I am starting those 3 off because none of them had ever seen Frailty. And if you're familiar with that movie at all, it's a Bill Paxton film from 2001, I believe, with Matthew McConaughey. And I've seen it. I really liked it. I can't wait to get their takes on it because I have ideas of what I think they'll think of it, but they often surprise me. So come back next week and hear Dreadlord, Wicked, and Faye and I talk about Frailty as we kick off the Gore crossovers.
It's the most wonderful time of year.
Yes, it is. It's the best month of the year is October.
I know that movie's from 2001 because I have not seen it because I was bottle feeding Austin.
Well,
I'm sorry.
So definitely come back and check that out next week. And then we've got some other fun stuff lined up for the rest of October. I can't wait. There's stuff I haven't seen before that I'm finally checking off my list. So it'll be a good one. But that is what's happening next week. So until then, Phil, Austin, again, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure having you guys on.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And just remember to enjoy your movies and the world. It's spooky season, but still be excellent to each other. Oh, I just love that so much.
Perfect ender.